Okay, I did do research into the Passover, and I did move from the living room into here. Anyway, I did do research into the Passover as well as into Easter. One thing I will say, with great respect to the Jewish people, while I was researching the Passover, I got extremely confused. And I'm so sorry. I would have loved to have done this video so much more justice. But I got so far and then got completely confused. So, once I get to the end of this video, I do apologise if I've missed out any crucial information. I do apologise if I haven't done it the justice it deserves. And I really would appreciate if you can, in the comments, if there's anything that I've missed out that is important to your celebration, you can put it in my comment section, because I did get really confused after a bit, and then I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, so I kind of got so far and then kind of had to stop. So this is what I found, and I do think it's important to tell people about the Passover, because it is important, but this is about as far as I could go. So that being said, this is what I learned. Okay, now for a start, Passover is Jewish. It is purely Jewish, and this year Passover is started on the 5th of April, so I'm a couple of days late, I'm sorry, and ends on the 12th of April. And when I looked that up, when I saw that, it actually came with a Jewish year as well of 5783. I don't know the significance of that. I couldn't find it. So again, any Jews who watch this, if there is a significance to the year 5783, I'd love to know about it. So your Passover started on the 5th of April, ends on the 12th of April, but the Jewish year was 5783. I'd love to know if there's a significance to that. But the Passover itself is a celebration of the freedom from slavery. That's exactly what it is. Around 1300 BC, when the Jews were slaves to the Egyptians, God had sent 10 plagues through Egypt, and then the 10th and final plague was that of the smiting of the firstborns. And God came to Moses and told him that this was going to happen, and for all the Jews to put lamb's blood on the mantles of the doorposts and to stay inside that night, for he would send the angel of death through the land, and anyone who was not inside their houses, inside and protected by the lamb's blood, would die. Their firstborns would die. And by doing this, by sending the angel of death, and what happened was it inherently set the Jews free. The Jews had to leave in such a hurry that none of their bread, none of their cakes, nothing rose. So they left with unleavened bread. So what the Passover is exactly that. It is their fleeing, it is their safety, it is their removal of, it is their celebration of their release and freedom from slavery and their escape. You know, So during the Passover, now the Passover is celebrated over 7 days, except in Israel it's celebrated over 8 days. Okay, now it is just that. It is to celebrate their freedom from slavery and their very quick escape. So they do not have, so before Passover starts, they have to cleanse the house and remove everything that is leavened. That is all bread, cakes, anything that has leaven in it. It's called shemetz. Now that's CHAMETZ. Shemetz. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but yeah, that has to be removed before Passover starts. It's that simple. And throughout the whole of Passover, they have to abstain from eating anything that's leavened. Again, in remembrance of the fact that when they fled Egypt, they nothing they had was leavened, because they fled in such a quick escape. It was so quick that nothing they baked at that point had time to rise. So none of the breads and that they had baked had risen, so they had actually fled Egypt with unleavened bread, which is why they over Passover do not eat anything leavened. So their unleavened bread is called matzah, which is MATZAH. It's what they call it, matzah. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but yeah, matzah. And it's because they had to flee so quickly, really quickly. It was so quick that they didn't have time. They just packed it all up. It just didn't have time to rise. The thing is, right, when the Passover starts, they have Torah readings. The rabbi reads the Torah. In the Torah, it refers to an ancient Passover ritual or sacrifice called the Paschal Lamb, and that's Paschal, lamb. We know that. But it's a Pesach celebration of freedom, and that's Pesach, Pesach, which is what they call the Passover. And it's just a celebration of freedom. That is what they're doing. They're celebrating their freedom over those 8 days, 7-8 days. Now see, this is where I started getting confused. So I understood what it was and why it was celebrated. Now I tried to find out what it was that you did through those 7 days. And this is where I started getting a bit confused. During the Passover, you have a festival meal on the very first day, sometimes the first 2 days, over the first 2 days, the course of the first 2 days. It's called a Seder, which is the word for order. Now, this is held on either the first or the second night at the beginning of it, right? And it's called, and it's just a festival meal, right? And okay, I found the word Haggadah, Haggdah, right? Because you have a recital of the book of Exodus and all of its related writings. Okay, and they are recited in order. Now I'm assuming that you go to temple for these readings and these recitals. This is where I started getting confused. Now, from what I could gather, the Seder is something you did at home. the festival meal is something you had at home, but you would go to, Jews typically went to temple for their readings and their writings and things like that. So during the first 2 days they would go to temple for the Exodus and readings and things and the recitals that they went to. These were integral parts. They're important to the Passover. But then they said that the Seder is typically split in two. And sometimes you hide one half of the Seder. And I'm like, okay. And then, of course, it lists a lot of foods that you can and can't eat. Some of it's leavened, some of it's obviously the leavened food you cannot eat, other things you can. And I started getting really confused by a lot of it. So that is kind of where I started getting a bit confused. And then it wouldn't tell me anything more about anything else you did. I couldn't find any other information about any other kind of things that happened during the Passover, things that were important during the Passover. All I found was the Seder, the festival meal, and that the Seder was split in two, and sometimes it was hidden. One half was hidden. And sometimes the shemetz, you would take parts of it and hide it around the house, around the temple. See, and this is where I get confused. And I am so sorry that I got confused. Yeah, I am so sorry that I couldn't find anything else to really help people understand what this was, or what happened during, or what you do during the Passover, or really how to explain it properly. I do try to explain things as properly as possible, and I really couldn't give this a better video, and I'm so sorry. So please, if there are any Jews that watch this, I would be ever so grateful if in the comments you could provide some more information about Passover, like what else is important to the Passover, things that I've missed, things that I've gotten confused about, anything that provides more information about what it is all about, how it works, the kind of things that you do during the Passover, why you hide half a Seder, the second half of a Seder, would be really helpful. Thank you. And again, I'm so sorry I couldn't do this any more justice. Okay. I hope you have a great Passover. May God be with you all. Be blessed.